is there a difference between the dating scene in the US and in Europe, Germany specifically?
Of course, yes, there is a huge difference between
Okay,
those two countries.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I needed to start with that. So this is a useful one. Okay, cool. So now that we know that there are differences, we also know that there is the online dating scene and there is that face-to-face physical dating scene as well. You know, meeting someone in a bar or at work. Is there also a difference between the experiences when you're doing online dating and when you're dating or meeting people in person, face to face? Is there a difference there as well? This is also yes or no, basically.
Of course, there's a huge difference there. Yeah, I would say it's day and night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, great. So because there is a difference there, I would like to structure this in two forms. Yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about the differences between the US and Europe on the face-to-face dating scene first, right? Before then we go into, the added differences that going online puts into that as well. So the first thing, you are trying to meet a girl. How easy is it to meet someone face to face and approach them and get them to hang out with you some other time or immediately? How easy is it to do that between Germany and the US?
For me, it's quite easier in the US, I would say, due to the language barrier that is not necessarily there, right? So that kind of helps with my confidence, or at least my mentality, walking up to someone, knowing fully where there is no scenario or situation where this person doesn't speak the language that I speak. So that makes a huge difference in how you approach a lady, right? In Germany, you have to kind of think of, what if she doesn't speak English? What if she's not confident in speaking English? A lot of other considerations, but I think that would be the major factor that I would consider when I say, oh, it's easier in the US approaching a lady physically than in Germany, for example.
Great. So my interpretation of that is that the pool that you have access to is much more in the US, and you feel that, so that affects your mentality as well. This is me just rounding it up. Almost every pretty girl that you see in the US, you can walk up to without thinking twice. But in Germany, you're probably hanging around to see if that this person speaks English, or if they spoke English to someone else, and then you walk up to them. Or is this something? Have I understood that correctly?
You are correct. And I mean, as you were saying that, then it also brings me to this other point that just popped up in my head. It's not just that. Frankly, it's also due to the fact that over here, the pool is way bigger, like you said. But it's not just the pool, it's also something that I would call like the racial dynamics, right? I feel like it makes a whole difference when the racial dynamics of the country is also kind of aligned to who you are. I mean, I would just break it down. It's like I'm black, obviously, right? So it makes it easier to approach someone, knowing that I live in the US, that a large portion of the country also look like me and they are citizens of this country. So that makes a huge impact in how you approach and the success you are going to get. Because for real, I mean, I had the experience in Germany. It's always there when you have to wonder if she speaks the language, which is English. Aside that, deep down, you also have to kind of hope she is
She's
into.
open. She's not necessarily into, but at least open to
Open-minded
engaging
to
with
engage
yeah,
someone of my color,
with a
right?
black
So
person
exactly.
or a
So
foreigner in general.
yeah, so that's also a big part of it. And like you said, a foreigner, not just like black. I feel like Germans are quite conservative. They know that about themselves also. So it's not just because of my skin color, right? It's also just, you are not German. So, and that is huge.
Okay,
So
so that's wonderful. So now we know all those differences, right? Germans are much more conservative. So for you, your experience as a foreigner means that you have to be a little bit more cautious when you select who you want to approach. Your pool is much bigger in the US, and it's also much easier for you. Now, let's walk through a scenario. So now we found a German lady and an American lady that you would like to approach. Do you always go with the same approach? Like, what type of energy? Is there a difference?
There is a huge difference also in terms of approach, and I would categorize that as cultural difference, right? There's a huge gap when it comes to like the expectations of how you approach in the US and in Germany. With a German lady, for example, there is a huge emphasis on direct communication and honesty, I would say. So if I'm like approaching a lady in Germany, there is this, oh, this is what I want, this is what I'm trying to do, this is where I'm trying to get us to. Whereas in US, it's not so much direct. I think you really creep people out if you come to direct. One thing that I've sensed is you have to really, really get your flirty game on. Like you have to be really your flirt game on,
Brother,
right? Like you have
do you
to.
want to give us a little bit of what does that
I mean,
mean?
it's not. Yeah,
An
what it means
example.
is what it means is like there's a buzzword for it now. It's called Reese. Like in Germany, you don't need Reese to be honest. You just need to be looking a part, which would
Like
be
an
like
example. You looked upon. Give us an example.
like look responsible, talk responsibly. Oh, my name is this. I saw you from over there. I thought you're really cute, and I just had to let you know something like that. And all in US, you have to sort of be really playful, not serious. So like the directness is not there. So like you can come up with something. I mean, I don't have anything top of my head right now, but going direct would most likely not get you the result you are looking for.
So you need pickup lines. Is that something
Exactly.
that would work more in the US compared to
That
Germany?
is superficial. Yeah, let me just put it like that. Something that is quite not necessarily true, but it's playful. And yeah, people respond to that, you know?
Like one of those little things where you go, I don't know if I'm saying this right. Something like, "Are you a bomb because you blow my heart away?" Some bullshit like this.
Something like that. Something like that. You have to be soft also. Really, really soft. Not in a
In the
I think
US,
you are in the Reese way. That's what I want to kind of differentiate now because it doesn't mean you don't have to be in Germany. You have to with any lady, right? You don't have to be too macho or talking like you're in a corporate interview or something. Like, but there's something about it that I see differently, not from my own experience, like what people do also, friends around me that have had success, right? It's like, oh, what you doing? You really need that sweet voice thing. I don't know how many videos you've seen online when they are trying to like mimic how man and woman relationship is like in the US. The voice is important, like the bedroom voice thing of so I was what you doing tonight, right? And with all these kind
no,
of
I get what now I understand.
with
Okay, so
the
all
with
this,
the yeah,
mm-hmm.
like the softness.
Yeah,
But in
yeah,
Germany, that will make you look really stupid. Like, what are you trying to do, bro? Like, it's cringy somehow, but it definitely works.
interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So I'm going to. I think I understand what you're saying. So in the US, when you approach the ladies, you tend to play you tend to play it almost like a game because there are certain things that work there that is not necessarily a natural thing, like using pickup lines, like changing your voice a little bit, like trying to be hip. But in Germany, it's fine to be yourself and just go directly and say, "Look, this is me. This is what I want. Are you down?" Right? So it's the cultural differences that we have across the two countries. Okay.
Yeah.
So now we're moving forward. Okay. You got the girl's number. You've got the girl's number.
Okay.
What do you do? How do you bring up the first date? Is it different?
In the US, you have to be casual, spontaneous because you don't know where this is going to lead. Usually, I would advise anyone watching this to assume that it's all for fun. That's what your mindset should be fixated on because that's what I feel like most ladies' mentality is a lot here. Don't start thinking, oh, she's going to be my future wife. That's going to get you into a lot of trouble. It's like
Oh, and you're thinking German.
let's
Do you think that in Europe you can already think that?
I'm generalizing now. Every case is not, of course, gonna be the same, right? But when you zoom out on the macro, right, like on the large scale, what will really cut across board, like what you will see often when you bring like random samples out is what I mean. Yeah, of course, in Germany, I believe you can have that mindset and it will work more than in the US.
That's an interesting observation.
No, no. And when I say this, it depends on where you meet the person, right? There's some places where you don't, like in the club, I would not advise, regardless the country, to first think, oh, this is going to lead to something like,
Or in
you,
school or in at
like
work,
in the
then
shopping mall, like on the street. Oh, I saw like just
oh,
normal,
that's
casual,
now
day
that you
to day.
mentioned the street. Now that you mentioned on the street, culturally, what has been your experience with actually walking up to a girl on the street in Germany versus the US?
Yeah, in the US, it's a thing. I'm not sure if it's not a thing in Germany, but I just never really had success, and I stopped trying in Germany. I've heard from like a few German friends of mine back then that, like, yeah, they do that, and it sure does work. But for me, it's not my experience. As far as I'm concerned, it's not a thing in Germany.
So basically, you're saying it's a thing in the US, but it's not a thing in Germany. Is it that sort of situation that we have in Nigeria as well, where it's much more common to meet someone randomly on the street, randomly on the road? If you find someone attractive in the bus, you talk to them. You know, that's a very common thing in Nigeria. Is it that type of difference?
I don't think it is as common as you would think because, yeah, of technology, right? But if it's like will you have success? I think, of course, you would have like a lot of success when you walk up to someone physically or like on the street. Yeah.
In
They,
the US versus Germany, as much success as you would have, for example, in Nigeria. At least that's something that we both know that in Nigeria it's absolutely normal. It's probably one of the most successful routes to meet people. Is that
yeah.